Brittany in Little Rock just said, hey, can you ask Rich Eisen about the Odd Couple TV show this past Thursday? Rich made an appearance and actually name-dropped Dan. So Rich joins us now. Rich, can you tell me about this?
Yeah, DP, there was a line in The Odd Couple. I was playing myself with Kenny Smith, the Jet, on a fake television show that Matthew Perry as Oscar Madison appeared, and he didn't fare very well, and the line was, did Dan Patrick put you up to this, as if he was pranking me. So, I'm just always have you on my mind, Dan.
Did you go off script?
Did I go off script? Yeah, it was originally Kenny Mayne, and I decided to use him.
It could have been Chris.
Hey, Oscar the Grouch Madison.
If you could have a cameo on any TV show, all time.
Oh, wow. Of all time?
All time.
Well, I mean, it might have been the original Odd Couple with Tony Randall and Jack Klugman, and that's one of the things I really liked about this new reboot is there are cameos because Howard Cosell on the old Odd Couple, I mean, the episode where Oscar Madison is in the Monday Night Football booth with Howard Cosell and then freezes, and Felix Unger grabs the microphone and tries to fill in for him. And the play-by-play he says is, here's Roger Staubach, who fades back elegantly, and he's scrambling with the dexterity of a lizard, and he goes out of bounds with no gain on the play. No gain on the play, but a lesson for us all. Just fantastic. I mean, just one of my all-time favorite shows. So to be able to do this and the new Odd Couple was sort of a bucket list item.
That's nice.
Yeah, thanks, DP.
Schedule comes out tonight.
Yes, it does.
Okay, I'm trying to handicap who we open the season with on that Thursday night.
Yeah.
Patriots at home.
Yes.
So I've got it narrowed down to the Steelers, the Eagles. I guess the Bills is a wild card?
No, I mean, if they go some way and within division, they got to go Jets because Revis would come back, and they're raising the banner with Revis, who helped them win it in the house. But I think they're going to go Steelers. I sure hope that they go Eagles because that is the most compelling team entering the 2015 season without a doubt, and that is without even knowing what Chip Kelly might do in the draft. And everybody's fascinated by Chip Kelly and what he has done over the last month and a half, and that fascination will only grow over the summer and training camp and seeing how all these pieces fit. And unveil it, unwrap it on the first Thursday night of the season against the Patriots would just be stupendous. But that's also a big, fat piece of filet mignon that could be served up other times on Sunday Night Football, or perhaps, obviously Fox would definitely want that game late in the season or late in the afternoon, mid-season. So that's part of the challenge of the schedule is it's not just, who plays who where, but on what channel, and there's many, many partners that pay a lot of money to get the marquee games, and you got to spread them out. I do hope you see Chip Kelly in the house on that first Thursday night.
How surprised were you? Not that the Eagles signed Tebow, but the coverage of the Eagles signing Tebow.
Well, I mean, he's catnip to the media, to the NFL media, and I'm definitely part of that.
But how legitimate is the story? As far as his relevance to that team?
Well, I think it's legitimate in the fact that he didn't give up. He didn't give up on a dream, and I don't think Chip Kelly's just throwing roster spots around willy-nilly, that he thinks that he can contribute in some way, shape, or form, whether it is to challenge Barkley or maybe Sanchez, perhaps to see what he can do in a red zone situation. Everybody's talking about how the two-point conversion might be more prevalent because of how they're going to change the extra point moving forward. I don't know if that's what Tebow had in mind.
Are they voting on that in May, Rich?
That's possible. That's what they tabled it.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, Chip Kelly might have some inside information, as do all coaches on that, and then maybe just to get him in, just in case that happens. I honestly don't know. Personally, I believe Tebow will be back on the SEC network in time for the season. But you never know. He's a guy to root for. So many people love him. The opportunity that he had in New York was an unmitigated disaster, and not because of him. I mean, let's be honest. He it's not because he had a starting job in the NFL and over an 8 to 16 game sample proved that he couldn't do it. that just didn't happen. He didn't get that chance in New York, and instead he was misused. He was not. It was awful, and part of it has to do with the whole disastrous organizational flow chart that was going on at the time there, and he got caught up in all of that. And here's a second chance. And in that regard, I think that's an interesting story. I don't believe he will be a starting quarterback for the Eagles. I don't believe he's even going to be the backup for the Eagles if he does make it the team. But if he does, that'll be just a lot of fun to talk about, which we do in the media, obviously.
Yeah, it was just a wrong place for him to go. But you had an owner with Woody Johnson who was infatuated with Tebow. He didn't fit in there.
Well, and then they introduced him at a press conference,
and nobody
in New York
was there,
where no one was there because it was during the owners' meeting, and everyone else was gone, and he strolled out unannounced in New York. It was awful from beginning to end. They didn't use him. They didn't even have a package for him. They didn't. I mean, and then the Jets were shocked that he couldn't practice well. I mean, that's part of the reason why teams couldn't hand a job over to him, or at least Elway figured that it was unsustainable, is because he didn't. Everybody will tell you that the ball would be on the ground in practice, and you can't have that if you're a first string unit in the NFL during practice if you're not going to have a good practice. And then on top of it, if he is your backup, you've got to have a system where you don't change the entire offense just because Tebow has to start now. I mean, you've got to have a place where he's just a plug into a system, and prior to what he's done with Tom House, he couldn't do that. I don't know what he looks like right now, but Chip Kelly did and decided to sign him.
He's Rich Eisen, host of NFL Game Day Morning, the Rich Eisen Show on DirecTV's Audience Network, coming up at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. The number one overall pick, we're starting to hear those stories, and it seems to happen every year, no matter who's the number one pick. But there's more intrigue with Jameis Winston this year because I think he could be a bust on and off the field. But is Tampa wavering on this? And then you throw in the Chargers with Phillip Rivers, and then the Redskins have some intrigue there with RG3. We seem to add the pieces there. It's a puzzle. They're pieces from puzzles of different puzzles, but we try to put them all together here this week before the draft. So, out of everything that I mentioned, what do you buy into that you think is actually legitimate?
The Phillip Rivers of it. I really believe that there's smoke there. I don't know if there's a fire there. In order for that smoke to become a fire, Mariota has to be passed up by Tampa, which I believe will happen. But there is a possibility that he won't, or Tampa trades out and somebody has a Mariota desire to go up to get to number one. Again, these are remote chances, but because Mariota has to be in the control of the Titans, you can't have any public discussion about this. Phillip Rivers is under contract to another team, so Tennessee can't make any public dalliances. San Diego decided to work out Marcus Mariota. Great. Maybe they think that's just in case he does somehow have an Aaron Rodgers fall in the draft. I don't see that coming. Phillip Rivers has 1 year left on his deal that he says he doesn't want to extend because of the uncertainty of the franchise's location in the future. That doesn't really seem to me to smack of reality, other than the fact that maybe he's a guy with 7 kids who prefers San Diego over Los Angeles. There's a lot of people who don't want to raise their kids in Los Angeles. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. You put it all together, and that comes up 4. And then I'm waiting to hear what happens with Adrian Peterson. I mean, the question is when are we going to hear something about his future? The Vikings don't have to say anything right now. Peterson is the one who can force the issue. And I haven't heard anything from his agent publicly yet or him yet. And I'm waiting to hear something pop on that front over the next week because Dallas could go ahead and grab him if they go and make a draft day trade. I'm still waiting to hear what the parameters of that might be, what it might cost them draft pick wise to go get him, and maybe they go ahead and draft someone in the first round, and then that would make this a moot point. But Phillip Rivers, more than anything else, sounds possible to me.
Yeah, I don't want Adrian Peterson at that age and that price tag. I would rather go Todd Gurley I'd rather get a running back who I thought could be something great instead of, I know that I'm buying Adrian Peterson, but I'm buying him at a very, very steep price.
Well, to me, Dan, this is the situation similar to what Jerry Jones went through, and Johnny Manziel was sitting there on the clock, and there was a great picture that we had on our draft coverage of the Cowboys cam of him sitting there in a wordless room where no one's saying anything, and you could see sort of that National Lampoon Animal House devil and an angel on his shoulder talking to him, and he decided to go with Zach Martin, and man, was that the right move. Now, Adrian Peterson, it's another situation like that. Potentially, you also have to sit there and think if Tony Romo has a 2-3 year window left, Des Bryant is here right now under contract. They do have an offensive line that is ready to roll. Defensively, they could use to get a little bit better. But you put Adrian Peterson there right now.
I know.
And you take a look at the rest of the NFC landscape, you would have to put Dallas at the top with Seattle, at the top with Green Bay. You would absolutely have to put them as a favorite out of the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. And Jerry Jones has to be sitting there at some point in a quiet moment thinking, do I do this?
Yeah, I understand going all in. Absolutely. And if you're going to go all in, then go get Peterson. But that wouldn't be my modus operandi.
I know DeMarco Murray would be sitting there going, "Oh, wait a minute.
I know.
Hold on a second. You paying him what?
Yeah.
How much?" But,
who's on the show?
David Shaw, the Stanford head coach, who will be sitting with me, Mayock, and Mariucci on the first night of the draft of the NFL Network coverage. He will be on the program today. Also on the show, Blake Bortles of the Jaguars. He was the first quarterback taken last year, so we'll get the perspective of what Winston and Mariota might be thinking through him. Also, Mike Tanier of Bleacher Report. He's got some great information, the NFL reporter for Bleacher Report. And then sort of a Like Mike reunion, Dan. Back in the day, I cameoed in Like Mike. Shad Moss, the artist formerly known as Lil Bow Wow, he's on CSI Cyber. He will be in studio today. Sort of a Like Mike reunion on the day that Full House is coming back, and you mentioned The Odd Couple. So this is a full circle moment, I think, in this conversation.
It's incredible.
See, you didn't even have to do it. I wrapped up the conversation.
Thank you.
I know when you asked me that question, you're out of time. You're up against it.
Yep.
I know the clock.
Yep.
I get it. So I wrapped myself up and brought it full circle, Dan.
Thank you, Rich. That's
you
Rich Eisen, NFL Network, DirecTV, The Rich Eisen Show, coming up at noon Eastern on Audience Channel 239.